The first selector I want to show you is the element selector. So imagine you have 3 div views, for example, and 3 paragraphs below, and each paragraph has a couple of words of text. So we have 3 paragraphs and 3 divs. And now the element selector basically allows me to select every single element of type div or every single element of type paragraph, for example. So I can go into my style sheet and now say I want to select all of the divs by just typing the name of the element into CSS. Then we use an opening and a closing bracket, and inside of here I can define a style, and one style would be, for example, the background color. You don't need to know that property yet, but this basically just sets the background color of an element. And now we can, for example, say we want to style the background color of a div, and we want to use aqua, for example, and now we save, and the background color of our div is blue now, but we don't see anything because our div does not have a height at the moment, and a div needs a height, and we can say we want to have 100 pixels for the height, for example, and now you can see all 3 of those divs have a background color of blue. So if I remove one of the divs, for example, you will see this box getting smaller because we just deleted one div. So you can basically see that every single div has a background color of blue now. I can do the same for a paragraph, for example, by just typing P in here, and now every paragraph will have a background color of aqua, and we can also remove the height, and you will see everything that is basically text has a background color of aqua right now. The next selector we have is the ideas selector. So we can, for example, have 2 different paragraphs right here, and now we can say that the first paragraph has an ID of, for example, P1, and the second paragraph has an ID of, for example, P2. So we have 2 different IDs, one for each paragraph. Now we can remove this, and we can select the first paragraph by using a hashtag, and the hashtag always indicates an ID. So if you want to target an ID, you use a hashtag and then the name of the ID. In our case, the ID name is P1, so we'll use hashtag P1 to target the first paragraph, and we'll use an opening bracket, and again we're going to set the background color, but this time let's use yellow, for example. And once we save, you can see that we basically change the background color of our first paragraph, and the first paragraph has an ID of P1. If we want to change the background color of the second paragraph, we can do so by selecting the second paragraph using its ID, and, for example, selecting a background color of aqua. So now the first paragraph has a background color of yellow, and the second one a background color of aqua. You can also use the class attribute to target different elements, and the advantage here is that you can basically use one class multiple times, so you can style multiple elements the same way by using this class, which would obviously not work with the ID since the ID is unique. So we can basically say we give our first p tag a class of para, for example, and we use the same class for our second p tag, but we use no class at all for the third p tag. So you see the difference. And we save our document, we delete everything inside of our style.css, and now we want to target every single paragraph with the class of para. And you can select the class by using the dot notation followed by the name of the class. In our case, the class name is para, so we target every class with the name of para by using dot para. Again, we have the opening and the closing bracket, and inside of here we can define a background color of, let's use bisque, for example. And now you can see our first and our second paragraph have both a background color of bisque, while the third one has a background color of white because we didn't add the class para right here. But we can do so by just copy and pasting the class para to our third element, and now our third element has the background color of bisque as well. So it's as easy as that when using classes. Now let's remove the background color of para, and let me show you the universal selector. The universal selector basically just means select everything you have, and the universal selector is indicated by using the star, and now using opening and closing brackets. And now we can, for example, say that we want to have a background color for everything inside of the document of, let's say, blue violet, which would look terrible, but as you can see, everything inside of our document has a background color of blue violet. So, and now you also have the option to use combinations. For example, let's imagine you have a div, and inside of this div you have one paragraph that has some text and a second paragraph that has some text, for example. And let's say you have a third paragraph that has some text as well. And now you can target every paragraph inside of a div. Let's say you have some other paragraphs down here. Oops, that one is too low. So let's say I have 2 other paragraphs right here. So I have 3 paragraphs inside of a div and 2 paragraphs inside of the body. And now we can select every paragraph that is inside of a div by using div, which means we select every div, followed by the other tag that is inside of the div, which is the p tag. So this means we take every single p tag, we select every single p tag inside of a div. Now we use opening and closing bracket, and we select a background color of yellow, for example. And as you can see, our first 3 divs have a background color of yellow now, while the 2 paragraphs that are not inside of a div don't have any background color at all. So this syntax basically means select every paragraph that is inside of a div. Let's take a look at another example. So let's imagine we have a section right here, for example, and instead of the section we have another paragraph that has some text inside. And as you can see, if we use this syntax, the 4th div will also have a background color of yellow. This syntax says select every single p tag inside of a div, no matter how deep it is nested inside of this div. And since this p tag is somehow inside of a div, even though it's nested pretty deeply, you will select this p tag and give it a background color of yellow. So if you want to say just use the direct child to this div, you have the option for a different syntax, which is basically this brackets syntax. And this syntax means just use the direct child to this div, or just select this direct child to this div and give every direct child a background color of yellow. And since this element is not a direct child of this div anymore, it will not get a background color of yellow. Now let's delete this div since we don't need it anymore. Let's delete those p tags since we don't need them anymore as well. And let's just keep a div and our 2 p tags. Imagine you just want to style every p tag that comes after a div element. So right after the div element, it's not a child, it's basically a neighbor, if you want to say so. So we want to select the direct neighbor to this div element. And we can do so by using the plus. So we can say we want to select every div, and then we want to select every p tag that comes directly after our div. And if we use this syntax, we use the neighbor to every div element. And now we can say we want to give that direct neighbor a background color of brown, for example. And as you can see, the direct neighbor to our div has a background color of brown now. And to show you that this really works, we can copy and paste this div down here. And as you can see, again, the direct neighbor down here to a div gets the background color of brown. And this is all you need to know about selectors in CSS.